welcome to Think About It, and I may shock you a bit as we begin our session together today because I'm going to agree with President Obama. I think that for us to sit idly by and watch as tens of thousands of innocent civilians are slaughtered in the streets of Libya, I think that would be inhumane and unconscionable. I'm glad that somebody took the initiative to join this international coalition to, at the very least, enforce a no-fly zone. My problem isn't with the action. It's with the explanations, plural. There have been so many contradictory statements coming from the administration that they truly do resemble the gang who couldn't shoot straight. They make no sense, and I think if they ever were to get into one room together around a nice big oval table with some danishes and croissants in the middle and everything, got a little distracted. I think that they would break into some sort of a verbal brawl because nobody can figure out what they actually stand for. It reminds me of the loudmouth guy at the party who's always bragging about all of his money and his travels and his cars and his things that he does. And then when somebody calls him out on the specifics, it becomes quite apparent that he was making the whole thing up. You see, the problem is the administration is filled with people who, for their entire lives, with the exception of Robert Gates, have hated the military. They've despised the concept of using it. They can't imagine why it would ever be necessary to do anything other than sit down in a room with the bad guys and have a pleasant conversation where we very carefully lay out our objections and the reasons why you being a bad boy just isn't going to work and it may result in the loss of your recess time. Well, there does come a time when the nation that carries the biggest stick needs to use it. We're doing that in a very modified, apologetic manner here in Libya with conflicting excuses that range from we're there to protect the civilians to we have to get Gaddafi out of power to he can stay in power, that's okay, that wouldn't be a bad thing either. Well, it would. So my advice to the president is this. I understand that your lunatic base out there in the left coast and the Daily Cost crowd and the New York Times crowd, I understand they can't stand the decision you've made. But what if you were to get in front of the American people and say, too bad, deal with it, we're not going to allow innocent people to be slaughtered in the streets by a ruthless, tyrannical dictator? Then, of course, you have to answer the next question, where are you headed next? I think a true leader says, where we're needed. Unfortunately, I think our leader will say, absolutely nowhere, and we'll be out of Libya in a matter of minutes. My friends, our nation, the United States of America, leads the world in a number of important categories. Military is one of them. We need to stop apologizing for that and remind everyone that when you need a little help, yeah, there's some responsibility on your part to do your part, but don't be afraid to call. Because our men and women in the armed forces are the toughest, bravest, most determined, patriotic people on the face of the earth. So I'm glad that they are helping to save lives in Libya. I just wish that back here at home, instead of locking reporters in closets and hiding from reality, I just wish we had leadership that would come out and say how proud we are of their efforts and how we'll do it again if we need to, regardless of the political consequences. Think about it.